Alright, so today we're going to be talking about actually a really terrible story. Recently, a man was under arrest. His name is Daunte Wright. And what happened was he was going to be tased for not complying, which they usually don't. But what happened this time was the female officer was only going to tase him, and she accidentally took out her gun and shot him. Now, this can go two ways. A lot of conservatives are saying things like, oh, well, she was, under stress and all this and did it by accident. But you know what? As far as I'm concerned, there is no excuse for this. I do agree that it was an accident. I don't think she's lying, but to just straight up write it off as like, oh, well, it's not her fault. All she did was shoot a guy. It still comes down to proper training and at least getting some consequences. I also really hate when you look at articles like this, you look at the details and, she's off work right now, but she's being paid while she's off. And on top of that, afterwards, she resigned on her own, so she wasn't fired or anything. Granted, I don't agree with the other side either, which is basically the Black Lives Matter side, where they're protesting justice for Daunte Wright and all this shit, because I agree with her saying it was an accident. It was a very stupid accident, and it was still her fault, but an accident nonetheless. I mean, they are acting like she did it on purpose, which I don't agree with. And also, we need to go over this again because this is becoming just ridiculous. Stop resisting arrest. I'm not saying that when people resist arrest, if they get killed, it's their fault. It certainly fucking isn't. But you do make the whole situation worse. I'm sure it may not have been good if you don't resist, but it certainly won't, become bad. And I mean, the officer was saying taser, 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 which is basically the warning, normal police procedure before firing one of the stun guns. Mr. Wright is seen to get into his car and drive away. If he didn't fucking... whatever. While the same officer says, holy shit, I just shot him. Yeah, so it was an accident, and an unbelievably fucking stupid one, but an accident nonetheless. But anyway, there is a second part to this story, and we're going to talk about it now. So this is incredible. This is more evidence that these protests, or peaceful protests, fiery but peaceful protests, as the mainstream media calls it, just because they're Black Lives Matter, is more than just the couple times that CNN tried to pull off this lie. And what's amazing is that when CNN is caught doing it live, without any editing, it looks even worse.
What was your decision to issue a dispersal order while they were peacefully protesting in front of the police station? What led to you to issue a dispersal order, and then on the back end of that 10-minute dispersal order, then to issue out CO2 canisters and gas for the crowd?
So,
can you talk to us about that?
Just so everybody's clear, I was front and center at the protest, at the riot.
So he corrects himself to say that it was a riot, which it was. It always is a fucking riot, despite what the media and Black Lives Matter will tell you. They are riots, not protests. I know the media has convinced all of you idiots that it's only a riot if you're white, and if you're black, it's a protest, but the actual opposite is the truth. But watch how CNN reacts, because he corrected peaceful, or protest, to riot.
We did not...
It was a riot. Don't do that. There was no riot.
Do you hear them in the background? They're like, there was no riot, okay? It was not a riot. It was a protest, okay? Don't say that. Listen again.
There was no riot.
There was.
And then he just kind of backs off a little bit, but he just goes, there was. Like, he doesn't even bother trying to argue because he knows that there's no use in arguing with stupid fucking idiots. But yes, it was a riot, and I like how he doubled down on the truth instead of bending over to their bullshit. Regardless, yes, it was a riot. The Mr. Wright did resist police, but he should not have been shot. That was complete idiocy on the female officer. I don't give a shit that it was an accident. I agree with you, in fact. And I don't give a shit that you were stressed or whatever, because you know what? You're a fucking cop. You need to be able to focus better so that you don't accidentally. I mean, you killed somebody. I mean, I agree with accidents, but when you're a cop, there's different levels to what can be considered a fair accident, and claiming that you were stressed and all this shit. And you know, some conservatives, even like Mark Dice, were comparing it to something like this. I believe he said, imagine if you're driving in your car and some lunatic jumps out in front of your car and you accidentally hit the gas instead of the brake and kill him. Is it you, the driver's fault, or is it the lunatic who jumped in front of your car? In that situation, I would say it's the lunatic who jumped in front of your car, because you were stressed and you got startled and you hit the gas pedal by accident. But you might be saying, well, Matt, how come that's an accident, but you're not giving excuse to this female officer? Very simple reason. Because the person driving the car in that example is a regular person, just a totally everyday person, whereas this is a trained police officer. That's the difference. Regardless, horrible situation.